At times I almost dream. I too have spent a life the sage's way, and tread once more familiar paths. Perchance I perished in an arrogant self-reliance an age ago, and in that act of prayer for one more chance went up so earnest, so instinct with better light let in by death, that life was blotted out not so completely, but scattered wrecks enough of it to remain dim memories, as now, one seems once more the goal in sight again.
Last episode where I said, it'll probably be all okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, things have changed a bit, haven't they?
Oh, haven't they just?
Yeah.
What a mad world we live in right now.
Just a little bit. So, I mean, you can probably hear this, ladies and gentlemen. We're recording over Skype at the moment.
Yeah, I've sadly had to self-isolate. Nothing too serious, but my wife came down with a cough, so we're taking sensible precautions.
Yeah.
But to be honest, most of the UK, most of the world, is self-isolating now as a general rule, just to stay on the safe side. This escalated really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds... I mean, we should probably do the intro first. This is Most Unwanted, an X-Files podcast. We will get talking about X-Files, because I'm pretty sure everyone is sick of hearing about coronavirus, but we'll give our 2 cents.
It's definitely more qualified people than us to give their opinion on it. But, it's got crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of... Again, 2 weeks ago, we were sort of saying, oh, it's starting to come over here, I'll just do this, that and the other, and, it might be okay. Now it's like every government is like, everyone needs to stay at home. It's just crazy.
Yeah. To be fair, I've got an idea, because the problem is we made ourselves look a little foolish in the last episode. Because what we did was, we obviously record these 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
And so, the problem with that was, we didn't realise how bad it was going to get before we do it. We will not make that same mistake again. I suggest we ramp it up.
Yeah.
So, I can't believe they blew up London.
It's mental, isn't it? Yeah. Just to save everybody from the rest of the UK, London's gone.
What a bold strategy to get everyone infected into one place and then just blow it up.
I know.
I couldn't believe that.
I didn't see it coming. But, I mean, everybody who had coronavirus should have saw it coming, or been herded down to London.
It was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew it when I saw everyone getting on the trains, but what can you do?
This got really dark really quick, so I don't know what's going on there. But sorry, I'm just.
You say that until it wasn't dark enough, and it was all the capital cities.
Sorry, we're doing this over video chat as well, and I just went to move my something on the laptop, and it looked like I was about to reach out towards checks and just So
it is an interesting way to do it. I'm not a fan of not having you there in front of me that we can bounce off each other. And while I will take this opportunity to say we apologise for the quality. We know it's probably not going to be as good as it usually is. But we did consider, shall we delay? Shall we do this? And we just thought, well, you know what? What else have we got to do anyway? Let's be quite frank. But if we can provide a little bit of entertainment for everyone as well, and whilst everyone's sort of locked down in the houses, then why wouldn't we?
That's the thing. Podcasts at the moment have sort of been my lifeline to the rest of the world. You know what I mean? Of different stuff anyway. Because at the moment, I've mentioned before, I'm into Warhammer and that kind of stuff. I can't go out to do any of it. You know what I mean? So I'm stuck at home. So it's sort of you just have to listen to other people's what they're doing, and it's that's the only way of sort of reaching out to the community. So yeah, I guess podcasts are valuable.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, I listen to a lot of I'm a massive football fan, so I listen to a lot of football podcasts myself. They are struggling right now because they don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's endless X-Files for us to talk about. Why not? You know what I mean?
I think on that note, we should probably just get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this is episode 5 of season 4 for the X-Files. And this is titled The Field Where I Died. Directed by Rob Bowman, written by Glenn Morgan and James Wong, and the original air date was November the 3rd, 1996. And this is our 88th episode, by the way. I always forget that at the beginning. I
never look at that, but that's just because it's not something that I can look up easily. I always forget to.
The only reason
carry on, sorry.
No, the only reason I know is because I just make a note at the beginning, but I always forget to read it out.
Yeah. Well, this seems like a good time to make an admission. So we've disconnected all of our computer in the house because I'm working from home. So all my work stuff is set up into a makeshift office, and I'm using my phone to Skype you. So I don't have any notes. Okay. So we're doing this all on memory, guys. So it might be a little bit of a shorter episode and might not go into as much detail, but you'll get my raw thoughts. That's what you'll get.
That's all right. Anyway, yeah. Like I said, I'm sort of doing the play-by-play on this one, so it's next week you've got to worry
about. Something happened.
So we start with a monologue from Mulder. We see Mulder standing in a field looking at what I thought was notes or this poem that he was reading. It turns out it's old photos, and he looks incredibly sad, but nothing else is explained, and then we go straight to the intro. What do you think of this?
It was a strange cold opening, to be honest. Like you said, all teary-eyed, really sort of out of context. Like usually the intro section is to sort of give you an idea of what the story's going to be about. This one didn't really give you that. But I found it intriguing, especially those photos. I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to know whether that was his thoughts or whether it was a poem, like you said. I was intrigued.
It was quite... I mean, throughout this episode, there's a lot that's left open, I find, and a lot that isn't explained. But yeah, we do find out a lot more about this specifically, anyway, as we carry on. But the next scene, in stark contrast, after the credits, is a raid on a... it's like a compound. It's what we find out later on is this... their 7... what are they called now? The 7 stars, is it, or something like that?
I don't have my notes.
Asking the wrong person, yeah.
It's a religious cult. That's
yes,
what I can tell you.
I do have basically. Oh, carry on.
Yeah, basically, it's just this is going to happen a lot in this episode, isn't it? Us just talking over each other. But yeah, basically, it's like a deeply religious cult. That's straight away. That's the sort of impression that you get.
Basically, yeah. So yeah, we see this raid, and. Mulder and Scully are there. They're looking for a guy called Vernon Ephesian. And Mulder looks at this door and he has this sort of weird feeling. Or we don't know what this is, but he sort of stares off at this door. Scully follows him out and they go into this field. And in this field, he finds a trap door with Vernon Ephesian and a family who are about to drink something which... you assume is poison, and which we find out later is poison. And then we see them all having their mugshots taken as we transition to the next scene. But yeah, any thoughts about this one?
Yeah, I mean, one of the bits in this is, as he's going out, that obviously they're looking for someone. It becomes evident that he's not in the house, but they mention that they've got satellite imaging of the property, and there's no other hiding places. They've searched everything. But Mulder just had this intuition from nowhere to have a look for this trapdoor. It was kind of like he had almost like a deja vu type of feeling, I suppose. That's the impression I got.
Yeah.
He knew where he was going. He didn't let anyone sort of talk him out of what he was going to find, and of course validated it by finding him and his wives.
Yeah. So it's again, not a lot explained here, and we find out more about this later on. But but for now, it's sort of a bit of a mystery as to what's going on here. Next, we see we're at the Federal Command Center in Tennessee, and we see Mulder and Scully looking at these at the photos that they've just taken, the mugshots, while they listen to a tape. They're having a briefing, basically, and we find out that this cult has been sort of arming themselves, getting weapons, narcotics, and there's also talk that they're doing what's mentioned as bad stuff to kids. They don't really explain what this is. Big Skin leading the briefing, naturally, and they're investigating the... what's that?
Yeah. Is that what we're calling him now? Big Skin?
I call him Big Skin, that's my name for him. They're investigating what they call the Temple of the Seven Stars. So I did have it written down.
Nice.
I like, at this point, one of the squad says that Spooky found the bunker that wasn't even there on the intel, which is a nice slice of life, seeing that they sort of call him this as a nickname.
I don't know, did you get the same impression of me? It was almost derogatory. He felt like the bullied school kid in that room.
Kind of. It definitely feels like they're it's a sort of derogatory term as such, but it also felt like he's just accepted that's his name. You know what I mean? That's his nickname now amongst these. You know what it's like in sort of, especially with that where it's so male driven. There's a lot of it can be quite harsh, I suppose, in how they describe stuff.
Definitely.
This is the first point where I realised there was going to be a lot of dialogue in this episode. Yeah. I had to skim through a lot of notes.
One character basically does an entire monologue as playing three different characters.
Yeah. I mean, that part was a struggle, I'll be honest. Scully asks how he did know.
At least, sorry to interrupt, but at least you get to use your notes, so count yourself lucky.
Yeah, good job you didn't have this one, otherwise we'd be fucked, right? Scully asks how he did know, and he's just not sure. Skinner basically says that they need to find something on these people because they're going to be let off, basically. They need to find this informant who they call is Sydney. The informant on the tape. Skinner says that to them that they need to basically nail them now, otherwise it won't be a Waco that they have, it'll be a Jonestown.
Yeah, all the way through this episode you've got this sort of counting clock in the background. It's against, they've got to get them within a certain amount of time. I think at this point they said 24 hours that they've got, isn't it?
Basically, yeah, it's kind of like the standard thing, and you have to charge them within 24 hours, otherwise you got to let them off.
But they make it up in this episode, which sort of ups the stakes, I thought. Yeah.
Because it kind of puts, a time limit on what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
We see in the next scene, Vernon is being interviewed by Mulder and Scully. He says that he knew they were coming. He spouts a lot about what the Book of Revelation says to him. As they question him, they sort of get some wise answers from him. He says that he doesn't know anyone from the church called Sydney, so their contact, they're not really sure who this is. And he does say that the unfaithfuls will be destroyed by God's mighty men, as he's staring directly at Mulder. We see Mulder looking at this at Melissa's mugshot, because I did forget to mention, when he opened the trapdoor, he sort of stares at Melissa, who's one of this guy's wives. And they sort of have a bit of a moment, but again, it's not explained at this moment what that is, but he's staring at a picture. Skinner says that nothing's come up and they'll have to start releasing them soon.
It was strange, to be fair, because I thought, when I first was watching it, I thought to myself that they sort of picked up on this Mulder, really having a connection to her, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, that's a bit weird. Why would he all of a sudden just take a fancy to her? Why is it an interest? But then they do go into it as they've got this sort of weird connection.
Yeah.
Even if it's unspoken, they've just got this, they're drawn to each other for whatever reason.
We then see Mulder and Scully interviewing Melissa. first thing I noticed, Melissa is the teacher from Final Destination.
I knew her from somewhere. Yes, it is, yeah.
That's the only thing I recognise her from. But yeah, she's the one who gets like skewered by the knives, if I remember right.
That's right, yeah. I did recognise her, but then I just sort of... as I was watching, I was like, nah, I bet you I don't. But yeah, it is definitely her, yeah. I remember it's the first one, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, again, I looked at some other stuff she was in, and it basically goes Final Destination, and then spoilers for like Final Destination 5. But she's in that one as well because it loops back round.
Oh, interesting. I haven't seen that one.
I think a deep cut in Final Destination lore. Yeah, basically Final Destination 5. They don't explain it's a prequel, but at the end of the film, the people who have escaped death get on a plane. It's the plane from the first film.
Yes, you know what? I have seen it. I remember that bit. Yeah. So I do remember that one.
So she's in that film as well, and you've got no need to watch Final Destination now, I suppose. But anyway, they start asking her questions like where she's from and where her family are from, and she sort of stutters on this. She can't really answer it. They start asking her if she's annoyed that he's got 7 wives. She starts crying and says that when they ask about children, she says she doesn't have children. They ask if she's been hurt by if the children are being hurt, and then she sort of has this sort of weird like freak out, starts tapping her head, and then she starts talking in a different voice.
I don't know where you two are getting that from. I mean, I saw a couple things. I mean, you know, it could have been anything, right?
Melissa?
Melissa? No, I don't know nobody called that.
Sydney?
What is this? The McCarthy earrings? No.
This is I love this, but I mean we've had it a few times already in X-Files, but I'm a big fan of like one actor taking on multiple personas. I feel like if you can pull this off, if I can look at an actor playing a role and then immediately know when they're playing someone different, I think that's a real statement to how well they can act. And I thought this was no different. As soon as she took on the mannerisms of Sydney, and the voice and the way he spoke, and even like the gaps between the things he was saying and his sort of speech pattern was completely different to the way she talks. It was really good.
Mulder starts asking some questions to try and like pinpoint who this is. Scully thinks it's some kind of multiple personality, but Mulder recognizes that she thinks the president is Harry Truman, so he thinks that Sydney is from a past life. Scully's skeptical, naturally.
Well, you would be.
I mean, yeah, it is a stretch.
Truman president? Do you know?
No. I'm just going to say no because I don't.
Okay, fair enough.
Not even going to take a guess. The amount of times we take guesses. Back at the command center, Skinner is sort of talking to Mulder and Scully about this operation. They're looking at a map, and Skinner says that they've now got 15 hours before they're released. Mulder explains what's just happened, and he says that they need to take her back to the compound to trigger this personality. Scully gives reasons to why this is rare and, to be honest, might be made up. But Mulder argues that they've witnessed it, so that confirms everything. Scully wants to know a bit more, and Skinner asks if they could even use this in court, which they basically say they could.
Which I wonder if that's an actual thing, because that seems mind-boggling to me.
Do you know what? It's probably one of those where a case in the past sort of they did use it, and so it's now usable in law. Yeah,
but the flaws just seem way too many. Like, I'm thinking to myself, so he said that it's been proven in past cases that a separate personality can be responsible for something. So does that mean you lock that person up regardless of whether that their personality actually did it?
Don't know. Surely, you know at that point, surely it'd be like a mental institution kind of thing.
Possibly.
I don't know. Skinner leaves, and Mulder and Scully get into a bit of an argument. Mulder snaps, saying that he's responsible for the 50 lives of the people in the compound, when Scully says that they need to look out for Melissa. Scully also says that he chickened out, basically, about telling telling Skinner about this past life stuff, but he basically says that Skinner just wouldn't believe him. And he storms off after Scully accuses him of being only responsible for himself.
Yeah, rare moments of him, like, genuinely getting sort of, well, pissed off is the only way I can really put it. It's not like he's angry, but you know what I mean? He's just he's annoyed by the whole situation at this point. I think this is where you start to get the sort of hint that he's more deeply involved than originally meets the eye. Because all through this episode, he shows this emotional side to him that you very rarely see from Mulder. In the sense, and not, you know, he can get emotional, but it's like if Samantha was involved.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's like deeply connected to these people, or at least one person, as it turns out. So all the way through, he's letting his personal feelings get in the way, and you sort of get the hints of that here, where usually he'd be a little bit more blasé. I mean, how many times do we say he's the Han Solo of this world? He's the cool, calm, collected, quick-witted type of guy. He's not that here. It's because he's so heavily involved in the case that he's letting it affect his decisions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, it's really good because we don't know that yet, but you can pick up on it. That's only explained sort of maybe in the next sort of 10 minutes of the episode.
So they take Melissa to the this compound, and they reassure her that if this is all too much, they can basically take her away. They walk around, and she starts looking at photos, including one of a wedding photo, it's a weird looking sort of like cult wedding. It doesn't look great.
Yeah.
She starts crying, and we see lots of drawings in one of the rooms, and Melissa starts drawing as well. And when they question her, she says that her name is Lily in quite a childish voice, and she pulls her face, like puts her tongue out. So at this point, you realise that it's not just this one personality that she's got; it's this kid's one as well. Yeah.
Again, I've said it before, but like I'm always impressed when you sort of get that switch and you can immediately tell it's someone different.
Yeah, I thought, to be honest, her acting in this was really, really good.
Yeah, I thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I thought she played a really good part.
Sydney comes back as well, and she says that the kid doesn't want to talk to Mulder and Scully. Mulder wants to know more about the guns, and Melissa walks off, looks at the door that Mulder sort of had a connection with. They all go outside, and Melissa now starts speaking in a southern accent, a southern woman's accent, and she says that the weapons were in the bunker built the night before, and this is when they start thinking, maybe they did this quickly to hide the weapons. She then starts to tell them a story about the Civil War.
The weapons were placed in the bunker, which they had built the night before.
That's why they weren't on the ATF reports.
The Federals would arrive in the morning just before the sun. Realizing the government's might and number, most believe they indeed would never again see the light of day. Just as they had watched their brothers die days before on Missionary Ridge. We had received word of General Claiborne's retreat from the Union Army. As a nurse, I had been ordered from Hamilton County to meet the troops, but in actuality, I was searching for him, knowing that he would attempt to remain in Tennessee rather than retreat to Dalton. I found him here, amongst the others who had been lost as General Thomas pushed through the Confederate line. The Federal troops would appear from that direction. Rather than retreat any further, they fought them, hiding us in the bunker. Inside, I could smell the smoke, hear the rifles, feel the bodies as they dropped onto the ground above. Every last one.
She says this all happened in 1863, and she turns around, looks at Mulder, and says that he was here too. She says this is the field where she watched him die. I literally had that in my notes, brackets.
Yeah, I thought when this part came up, I got sort of amped up for this episode. I enjoy stuff like this where they sort of experiment with like death and like what happens in the afterlife and stuff like that. I like the different sort of sides of things, and now we know Mulder's involved in it. It makes sense why he's so connected. And then I was interested to see where they go with it, and I'm glad they went down the route of basically like these souls constantly trying to find each other.
Yeah, the more they explain it.
Sorry, carry on.
Carry on, you first.
I was just going to say it made for a really interesting story.
Yeah, the more they go through that sort of aspect, that story, it reminds me a lot of like Lost and sort of the later seasons of that. Yeah,
very much so. And there's always, what's the book called by Richard Matheson? When Dreams May Come, I think it's called.
I'm not sure.
But there's a book on there, and it basically explores death. One of Richard Matheson's book. I'll have a quick look whilst we carry on.
Okay. We see Mulder and Scully driving back with Melissa, and Mulder pulls a classic spooky move, and he wants to use hypnosis on Melissa. He says that, Scully says that this woman's in pieces. She doesn't need any more prodding and poking in that direction. To which Mulder snaps and says that she saw and heard what she said. And he says, why can't she feel it? And Scully argues that he called Vernon a sociopath for believing he lived in Greece a few hundred years ago. Why is it any different for Mulder?
Yeah, it's got a point. I've just had a quick look at what dreams may come.
Okay.
Apparently there's a film starring Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr. as well. So there you go. I've read the book. The book's fantastic. But that's just a little off topic there.
No, I've never heard of that book, to be fair.
It's basically, the premise is a family guy dies and he finds himself wandering through the hospital, and then he finds his own body. And it's about his experience and how he experiences the afterlife. It's phenomenal, really good. But then I'm biased because Richard Matheson's my favourite author.
Oh, there you go. He wrote a lot of Twilight Zone as well, didn't he, Richard Matheson?
He did, yeah. I think we spoke about it on this show.
Yeah.
But yeah, he also wrote I Am Legend, which is phenomenal. Much better than the film.
Yeah, I was just going to make a joke. I was just going to say, I did like the bit where Will Smith eats with his dog.
Yeah, the film's all right, but the book's just blows out of the water.
We're back at the Federal Command Center, as it keeps being listed, and this is where they do this hypnotherapy session with Melissa. She says, and I'll try and get through this as briefly as I can, because there is a lot in this scene, and especially in a similar scene. She says a woman came to the temple who lived on the streets with her son, and this is her recounting a story from being at the compound. She says that Vernon took a liking to the boy and took him away from the mother. The woman tried to sneak in to see him, but one of these mighty men beat her up in front of the child. Says Vernon then started to beat up the kid in front of the mother and told him to sleep in the trash. And this is where, again, we get Melissa swapping to Sydney, saying that Melissa doesn't need to go through all this again. So it seems like these different personalities are sort of looking out for one another, I guess, and sort of stepping over one another.
Yeah, especially Sydney. I don't think we ever get an inclination that the others are aware of the other voices. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could be wrong in that, but I never got the impression that Melissa knew about Sydney. But Sydney definitely knows about the others, and he almost, as like you said, kind of protects them.
Sidney says that the guns are in the Civil War bunker, but he says that he doesn't know where this bunker is. Scully thinks that maybe they can find this bunker from an old map in the records. Mulder tells her to go back to this field, and this is where her southern accent comes back, and she sort of doesn't snap out of the hypnotherapy, but sort of is aware of what's going on, and she stares directly at Mulder and says that his eyes haven't changed. She says it's tough waiting for him, and how much she misses him. At this point, I thought it might be going for a swerve, and this might not be her past lives. I thought maybe she was some kind of... Have you ever heard of like an empath? Sort of like a psychic who gets other people's feelings and stuff like that and experiences.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, maybe it's like that, and she's sort of picking up all these different people from this field, but it's never really explained that way. It sort of seems like maybe she is. These are her past lives.
Yeah, the straightforward response to it is, well, it's the one I took from it anyway, which was the idea that they, in every life that they live, they come back once they die, and in every life that they live, their souls find a way to come back to each other in one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. Mulder looks confused by this, and Scully says that nothing that she's saying can be proven. So Mulder decides to do a bit of digging of his own, and he gets hypnotized. And he sees some of the things that he can see, and he mentions he can see shattered glass. He's in Poland, a Jewish woman. He says he sees crying as he sees his father dead in the streets. Souls coming back together. He says different, but they always come back together. And this is where I mentioned, it's got a very Lost kind of vibe.
Yeah, there's the one bit that really sort of confused me a little bit at first, but it was quite shocking. Was he mentioned that he was the woman with a son, and the son was Samantha.
Yeah. So,
like we said, those two souls come back together in a different form in another life, but in that life he was Samantha's dad, or that Samantha's soul's dad, and also that his deceased father was Scully.
Yeah, yeah, and he also says,
carry on. Sorry.
No, you carry on.
I was just going to say it's kind of sweet, because obviously not everyone that you meet in life is that important. You're not interlinked with every single soul that you meet. But it's nice to know that Scully is one of those intertwined souls. Yeah, and it's sort of, it makes their pushing together at the beginning of the series now, it makes it seem that it's much bigger on a grand scale than what it was initially entailed as. Yeah, it was meant to happen, exactly. Yeah. He also mentions that there's a Gestapo standing next to him, and he says he is Cancer Man. So again, he's linked to them. Just very much. I as soon as he said that, I don't know why, I just imagined Doctor Who and the Master, just like you know what I mean, like constant changing faces, but just battling through time. Never ending, unfortunately. yeah, exactly. Because, like he said, I think he says something, and I am ad-libbing here, as I say, I haven't got my notes, but I think he says something along the lines of, evil souls return evil. Yeah, I think he does, yeah. And that was an interesting line, because, like I said, it almost places Cancer Man as his arch nemesis, someone that he has to defeat, do you know what I mean? Which is interesting, because even though they've been adversarial, then they've not been at each other's throats, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I wonder if this is sort of like hinting at some massive escalation in their conflict, I guess. Could be. We'll see. He says that love soulmate's eternal. It doesn't really... Again, this is all sort of broken speech as well. And he says that Melissa is his husband and she's been taken to the camps. So, I mean, yeah, we sort of get the picture. This is Germany. Or, well, this is Poland under the Nazis. He says his body is above the field near the bunker. He says he's a sergeant. He said his sergeant is dead, who is also Scully.
He says Sarah's holding him, and I think Sarah is this southern character that was mentioned before.
Yeah, he's recalling a different life here. He's recalling a life from the Civil War.
Yeah.
That Melissa was on about to him earlier.
He says Sarah's holding him, and he starts crying, and he says Sarah's Melissa. And Scully asks about the bunkers, but doesn't get anything from this. But at this point, he said out loud some of the names. Sarah Kavanagh, I think, and Sullivan Biddle. Two of the names they mentioned.
Sullivan Biddle, he said that it was his name.
Yeah. So then we see Scully looking in the Hall of Records. She's looking over some old maps, but doesn't really get anywhere. So she looks in the register for people's names and does find a Sarah Kavanagh and a Sullivan Biddle. And this is where she finds these pictures, which are the ones that Scully had in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, exactly. So now we know this is real. This isn't just something that... She's not crazy. This is, and again, we knew that because we knew that Mulder believed it as well, and which kind of sort of edges the audience to sort of go along with it. But yeah, we now know that this isn't a coincidence. They've got proof now. They actually did survive in past lives. Otherwise, how could Mulder know about it?
Exactly. We see them after all this in the next scene. Scully mentions to Mulder that they're going to be released soon. And Mulder asks...
Dana, if early in the 4 years we've been working together, an event occurred that suggested or somebody told you that we'd been friends together in other lifetimes. Always. Wouldn't it have changed some of the ways we looked at one another?
Even if I knew for certain, I wouldn't change a day. Well, maybe that fluke man thing, I could have lived without that just fine.
That was a nice little moment.
I thought this was quite a sweet line, and I also get the feeling this is probably something that the shippers are really into.
Yeah, definitely.
We see Melissa listening to the tapes, and she doesn't believe it. She said it's a nice idea of being able to choose who you live with before you're born. And she does say she wants to believe, which Mulder instantly gets interested by.
But it makes you wonder whether do ideas and do traits pass over between lives? Like, has Mulder always been inclined to believe? Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes you wonder. Because if that's the case, then you could understand her having the same theory in her head. Because they brought it through their lives. Do you know what I mean? It just makes you wonder about everything else.
And we, she says if this is true, then she might as well just end her pointless life. And Mulder points out that if it is true, no life is pointless, which is quite an endearing sort of message, I suppose.
Yeah.
Vernon comes in, collects her, and she rips up the photo. And Scully says that she's spoken to people about the bunker, and they're searching for it at the moment. We then see the group, or Vernon's group, arriving back at the compound, and we see the FBI searching because she mentions that they don't own the compound, so they're still entitled to search it. But this is going to antagonise this group into escalating this, which is what we see happening next. Back at the compound, Skinner says there's no way they can raid it again, so we can see that Mulder and Scully are asking them to perform a raid. And Mulder says that he thinks Vernon doesn't think he can win this, but he will try and deny him and his followers to what he says the Devil's Army or the FBI. So yeah, but I mean, I think we know what's deny is going to entail, but they haven't cottoned on yet, which I thought was a bit weird.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in his eyes, if he can't win it, then denying their souls to the demons, if you like, is a victory in itself.
Yeah, exactly.
The idea is straight away, and I think the audience know straight away, especially because of that intro, that it's going to be a mass suicide.
Yeah. we see them being all collected into the barns, and they barricade them all in, and they all have, well, all the mighty men have assault rifles, so they're ready to just go out in a blaze of glory, pretty much. We see Skinner talking to the BATF agents, who are like the narcotics agents, I guess. He tells them to hold off searching as the FBI plays a recording that they've got from inside the compound, which basically spells out that they're going to... Well, he starts reciting a passage from the Bible, and when Scully reads this passage, it basically spells out that they're going to kill themselves. So this is where Skinner gives them the go-ahead to just head in and perform the raid.
Yeah.
We see Ephesian giving a speech as they're being handed out cups of this red liquid, which pans over and we see poison on the bottle. Not a very...
Just in case you hadn't figured it out yet.
yeah. That looks nice cherry aid, doesn't it? But yeah, so the FBI arrive and the shootout occurs, which I might seem weird, me saying thank Christ there was a bit of action, because it meant I didn't have to recap mounds of speech. Mulder and Scully arrive to see this chaos, and inside we see that people are starting to drink this drink. As we see Melissa, we sort of see her doing the mannerisms of Sydney, so again it feels like Sydney's trying to protect Melissa from doing this. Mulder, at this point, raises his hands and heads into the compound, to which Scully is adamant that he shouldn't do this, as he's going to get shot. But no one does, and as he gets inside, as we go inside, we see all these followers are dead, apart from Melissa, who's still alive, but so is Vernon, and Vernon comes up to her with another cup. Mulder, we see him run through the halls, but as he arrives, we find him too late. Everybody in the compound's now dead, but we do see that this picture that she tore up originally was in her hand as she died, and Mulder starts crying. We see the beginning scene again as as this speech in the field goes on, as he's sort of looking over this, and then we get the end of the episode. So anything from this last scene or the last period of time?
Yeah, I mean, again, Mulder breaking down really got me. Again, it's just, even he barely knows this person, but like that connection's obviously so strong, and he's fully behind it. There's no doubt in his mind that they knew each other. And yeah, I like the weird sort of. I think there was some sort of weird time lapse that they did in that final episode between the sort of the police and the people in the barn, because it made out all the way through that Mulder was so close to saving them. But as soon as he got into the barn, you realise that he's always too late. He was too late from the beginning. That's why he didn't get shot when he walked up, because they was all dead anyway.
Yeah.
But they sort of delayed the shot, which made it quite exciting to watch. And then when that final reveal does come in, where you find her dead on the floor, it's all the more brutal.
Yeah, I did really like that again, because it sort of creates this tension, and you up to that point you're thinking, oh, maybe he's going to save her, and then unfortunately, yeah, it's always too late.
It's strange to end an episode so tragically as well, because this, like, they don't solve really anything. It's just heartbreak. You know what I mean?
And we don't know at the end of this whether was this all past lives? Was this... there's so much left open, which is a good thing, really, because we've complained in the past about plots being explained too much, so it's nice to have something a bit more ambiguous.
Definitely.
What did you think of the episode overall?
I loved it. I really enjoyed it. It was something completely different. It was a nice new take. Like, I enjoyed not having... I mean, obviously, for you writing the notes, it might be a little bit different, but I enjoyed not having, like, an action-heavy episode. I enjoyed having like these sort of philosophical debates and just literally about these two souls, and it kind of makes you look at the world, like, as far as the setting, just a little bit different.
I did really enjoy this episode, to be fair. I thought acting-wise, this episode, the performance from Scully, Mulder, and Melissa, I don't know the actor's name. But yeah, I thought it was just a great performance from those three. It was, again, as you mentioned, it was tough to recap because there's a lot of dialogue and there's some quite big concepts that they explore in this. That are hard to summarize in a few words.
Definitely, but I think that was another great point of the episode, is they didn't really try and summarize it. They gave you the bare minimum. They gave you the breadcrumbs for you to follow. But really, all the depth in that story was in their recounts of their former lives. And I thought that's all you needed.
Yeah. I thought that that the changes set up as well, because we've had a fair few episodes where basically it's been a typical X-Files episode, I guess. So this one, it definitely felt like a change of formula, and I did quite enjoy this change.
Agreed.
Luke's production notes.
Episode writers Glenn Morgan and James Wong developed The Field Where I Died specifically as a showcase for Kristen Cloak, the actress who played the protagonist from their short-lived Fox series Space Above and Beyond. So Kristen Cloak was the actress's name.
Oh, there you go. And she wasn't something else, so they must have known her before.
They mentioned this with Home as well. They seem to have got a lot of actors and actresses from that and brought them over.
To be fair, they do that a lot now with like HBO. HBO love to get their pool of actors into different shows. You know what I mean? They have actors they can trust.
Morgan stated, "I knew she did a lot of characters and voices, so I wanted to incorporate that. I wanted to write something for her that challenged her. To prepare her for the role, Cloak researched dissociative identity disorder, and she based the many personality states that she played on people that she knew."
Okay. Her voice of Sydney reminded me of... Oh, I'm probably going to make a fool of myself now. What's his name? Is it something Godfrey? Is it Gilbert Godfrey?
Yeah. The parrot from, Aladdin.
Yeah. That was what it reminded me of.
Funnily enough, I watched Aladdin the other day, so that's fresh in my mind.
It's a great film.
Morgan also stated that he wanted to write something for David Duchovny that challenged him. When pitching the idea to director Rob Bowman, Morgan and Wong stated that they wanted this episode to feel like the part in Ken Burns' Civil War documentary where they read the Sullivan Below letter. I don't know what that is.
No, me neither.
I have heard Ken Burns documentaries are really, really good. That's all I know.
I've not even heard of them, if I'm honest.
I know he's done.
I'll have to look into them.
He's done one, the Civil War one, which apparently is like if you want to know anything about Civil War, watch that documentary. And he's done a Vietnam one, which is sort of another one of those things. Quite the American documentary, you know, like those conflicts. Michael Massey, the actor who played Vernon Ephesian, wanted his character to be normal looking and non-demonic, explaining, "You have to believe that he believes his own rap." I feel like there are letters missing there. When he speaks, he's just explaining that this is the way that it is, and that's when it gets very scary.
I agree with that.
I like that portrayal, to be fair. You just want him as a normal guy who is an arsehole.
Yeah.
The name Vernon comes from the real name of Branch Davidian cult leader David Koresh, known as Vernon Wayne Howell, whereas Ephesian is taken from the biblical apostle to the Ephesians.
I don't know. I've got to be honest. I don't know that much about cults.
The only thing I know...
sorry, carry on.
The only thing I know, to be honest with this one, with Davidian is because I think Davidian was the Waco cult, I think.
I don't know. I just don't know.
Because I know it was that somebody wrote a song called Davidian, and it's about that thing.
So I am fascinated by it, but I never get around to sort of watching the documentaries and whatnot. So I'm gonna have to have a little bit of a look, to be honest.
The only thing I know from the Waco stuff is the siege part of it, where they basically you just see the buildings just on fire on the side of it because they basically the government just attacked it. But again, I don't know the details, and I'm not even going to pretend to know. Ephesians Temple of the Seven Stars was built on a soundstage at North Shore Studios, and at the time was one of the show's most expensive sets.
Really?
Apparently so.
I can't think of anything in this that... Well, I suppose...
There's a lot of rooms, that's all I can think of.
Maybe.
But, yeah. To create an authentic-looking citizens registry, the show's prop team reached out to the officials at Epsom, Tennessee, who lent them a genuine form, which they then carefully reproduced by the show's art staffers. The old photographs featured in this episode are hybrids of different freely available photographs, which are melded together with the help of computers.
Oh, okay, nice.
Using that old, probably one of Pendrell's applications that did that. The face used for Sullivan was chosen because it bore an uncanny resemblance to Mulder.
I didn't think so. I was looking for resemblance because I thought that maybe they'd have used Mulder himself to make the picture. And so I was looking, and I didn't see any resemblance myself.
I didn't think it looked like him, but hey,
exactly.
The poem Mulder reads at the beginning and end is from Paracelsus by Robert Browning. The first cut of The Field Where I Died was over an hour long, resulting in 18 minutes being cut. This resulted in removal of 2 of Melissa's personalities.
Oh, God.
So she had more.
With this, we know she has 4 at the moment, doesn't she?
Yeah.
That we know of.
Herself included, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
I'd be interested to see the other 2.
There probably is some deleted scene. Then again, we can't find them. We've tried this.
Yeah, exactly.
Sarah Stegall later noted that the penultimate scene, which featured federal agents raiding the religious compound and finding that everyone inside had committed suicide, bears similarities to the Waco siege. So, there we go.
It was based on that, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it seemed like.
It stinks.
Welcome to the Critic's Files.
I think that it's going to... Well, no, not what I think it's going to be. I'm going to give this a solid 8.2.
8.2. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. I really enjoyed it.
I ranked it a little lower, but not much lower, and I think that's partly because of taking the notes, which always does sour the experience a bit more. I did give it a 7.9. Sorry.
Okay, that's not too bad.
I don't think it's too bad.
No, that's good.
So, I just loaded up the score from IMDb because I forgot to take those down. Other things have been on my mind this week. So, with 2,998 votes, this episode got a 6.9.
Wow, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that seems a lot lower than I would expect.
Interesting.
I mean, it's still not a bad score, to be fair. But
no, it's a good episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not great, it's not bad. It's a good episode.
So the only thing really I sort of got from the other parts of this episode for the Critic Files, I guess, I've basically the reviews are sort of similar to what we've sort of said, and I'm not going to make myself sound like I'm copying people by reading them out. But this episode is apparently a favourite of Gillian Anderson's, who said that she loved the script and that it made her cry.
Oh, I can see that. Again, maybe that's why it scored so low, because it wasn't what you come to expect from X-Files. Maybe that's what it was.
Also, series creator Chris Carter received angry calls after the Heaven's Gate, a UFO religion cult, committed mass suicide less than 6 months after the episode had aired. He declined to comment. As would I.
Yeah, yeah, good point.
I mean, 6 months after an episode, he's kind of like, what do you want me to do about it? You know what I mean? It's awful, but I don't know. Anyway, I think that's everything for this week. So yeah, sorry if it's been a weird episode, and to be honest, prepare yourself because there might be a few weeks like this, depending on how long we have to hunker down for. We don't know at this point, as everybody in the world is in the same boat. But we'll still keep doing episodes. We'll still keep doing Skype episodes. If you want to get in touch, try us on Twitter. To be honest, that's probably the best way to do it. Everything is in the text below, though, on your podcast app. But yeah, do get in touch and let us know how this is all affecting you as well, and what are you doing. I did see some people on our Twitter were doing some X-Files binges to sort of while they're stuck inside. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you're up to during all this.
No better time to rewatch the X-Files. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. Next week we're looking at an episode called Sanguinarium, which any guesses to what this one was about? I mean, we've watched it really.
Yeah, we've seen it now. I had no idea going into it though.
Yeah.
There's not a lot where they just put a word out that I've got like absolutely zero idea what it is.
I only know this because, sorry, I've mentioned this twice in one episode, so that everyone's going to call me a massive nerd. But in Warhammer, their main language is a fake Latin, and anytime they talk about blood, it's sanguine something. So I was like, oh, it's something about blood. So that's all I knew. But they did have a lot of blood. But we'll get into that.
We'll talk about that next week.
So yeah, get in touch with us and we'll see you next week.
Bye.